All right, so moving on to the NBA, we had the Donovan Mitchell led Utah Jazz going against the Kevin Durant led Brooklyn Nets. The Nets did win that game last night on 114 to 106. Kevin Durant dropped 37 off in 38 minutes. And then coming in at that whopping second, his guy Bruce Brown out here with 22 and 37 minutes. On the losing side, you had Utah Jazz led by Donovan Mitchell, 30 points in 36 minutes. Rudy Gobert coming in at a hot 11 and 31. So take that for what it's worth, Mr. All-Star. But, hey, you did get some help from Mike Conley with 18, Jordan Clarkson with 19. Not quite enough to knock off the streaking Brooklyn Nets, especially when they got Kyrie around. So, with that said, Jay, I looked at this game last night. Did the Nets do anything to give you any positive vibes that they might kind of be getting their act together as the postseason approach?
Well, it's hard to tell because, as usual, the Nets not operating at full capacity. As most teams, I don't know if we've done an NBA game to where everyone was available. It's just never going to happen. There's just someone's always, it's always going to be something. The thing that interests me about this game is you have Utah fourth in the Eastern Conference, I believe, 45-27 after this game. And you have the Nets 38-34.
I think you meant the Western Conference.
The West, okay, yeah, right. Of course, the Jazz in the Western Conference, fourth in the West. And the Nets eighth in the East at 38-34. And you look at that, you say, oh, well, Nets at home, and obviously they got a lot of talent, but a lot of their talent is sitting on the bench. And I don't even know. I didn't even see Kyrie on the bench. So I did see Ben Simmons, though. But so you're like the Jazz fourth in the West, Nets eighth in the East. So like Jazz should have a chance in this game. They should come in and have a good showing. And they did not. So the thing about it is, it's almost like, to me, the Nets clearly look like a better product than the Jazz. And it's funny because the Jazz were the number one seed in the West last year. Right. And they virtually are the same team. I know they traded away Joe Ingles. I know, but Bogdanovic did not play last night. That matters somewhat.
Right.
But this game was over after three quarters. It was a 21-point game halfway through the fourth before the Jazz, put on some comeback that looked like a comeback, but it really wasn't. It just made the game somewhat interesting and look respectable, but it wasn't legitimate.
It's funny you say the Jazz did something. See, I look at it different. I think Brooklyn, they fell asleep for like almost a 3.5 minute, period in the fourth quarter. But
that was certainly part of it. Like Brooklyn had 7 turnovers in the fourth quarter. Like they clearly, like their offense late in that game was just like you couldn't figure out what they were doing. So it was like, yeah, they like really felt like they took their foot off the gas. Jazz hit a couple threes. All of a sudden Gobert's dunking the ball. And it's like, oh, you play, don't you? Okay. But it was just one of those things when you look at big picture and you think about teams that can win the title. Jazz, obviously, very talented. They can score the ball. Remember a couple of years, like the early years of Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert as a tandem, they really were known for their defense, but they just couldn't score it. Right. Now they have the offense to match. They were the best team in the Western Conference last year in the regular season. And it feel like they somewhat stagnant right now. It's like, okay, what's the next step? Because when you make a number one seed, compare the Jazz kind of to Milwaukee. Because Milwaukee, like a couple of number one seeds, they had their playoff struggles. Then they come down to a 3 seed, but you still looked at Milwaukee. We still looked at them with a lot of respect, and they ended up winning the title last year. I'm looking at the Jazz right now, and this has been my problem the last couple of years. I don't see championship material. I just don't.
Right.
And Donovan Mitchell's a special talent, but that's who it's going to be. It's going to be Donovan Mitchell that has to lead this team through the playoffs. And then you look at Rudy Gobert over here, and you're like, last night, I didn't notice Rudy Gobert on the floor for most of this game. To me, he was a non-factor. That's a problem because he's your second best player, I've been told. Defensive player of the year.
Defensively, he the second best. Listen, I'm sorry to cut you off, but my ass get chapped when I have to hear about, first of all, right, Rudy Gobert is average at best on the offense side of the ball. Secondly, for all the hype he get defensively, if he ain't blocking shots, he ain't doing nothing defensively. I'm sorry. He ain't getting steals. He ain't locking anybody up. And he's too thin to really – Joel Embiid eats him for lunch. You know what I'm saying? Like, Jokic eats him for lunch. I'm sorry. Yeah, but, God, I'm sorry.
I hear you. And the part I'm, like, saying that's like, his reputation. Like, right. He's the second best player they have. Obviously, his calling card is defensively, and I've spoken about his offensive limitations before because he doesn't bring anything. It's not like you can run offense through Rudy Gobert. Like, he's just gonna get his stuff off pick and rolls and offensive rebounds. That's all it is. And so obviously Mike Conley chipping in a little bit. Clarkson, he does his thing off the bench, but it's not incredibly efficient. So that's where I'm at with the Jazz. The long and short of it is the Jazz they didn't impress me last night, and based off where they're at in the regular season, they ain't got no better. That's where I'm at with the Jazz. The Nets, meanwhile, didn't have Kyrie. They didn't have Ben Simmons. Seth Curry played like 10 minutes in this game. By the way, a lot of people slipping around on that Brooklyn floor.
The floor was crazy. Yeah.
You had Curry hurt his ankle, I believe. Then Conley did some kind of move that was kind of cool, but like there's no way KD just falls over himself off that move. And then I think it was Patty Mills later on. Just too many guys I had slip sliding around. But what I say with the Jazz is, and a lot of this is ill-timed with the Kyrie, with the vaccine just foolishness, and the Ben Simmons like trade with whatever he's got a herniated disc. That was news to me. I thought we were just doing other stuff, and we just needed. I don't know, man. But they got those two guys who are unavailable. Well, Ben Simmons unavailable and Kyrie part-time right now. And yet you look at what they put on the floor, and it is criminal how the underperformance of this team overall, even before Ben Simmons, because they have so much on this team, and for them to be sitting at 38 and 34, and KD's injury is probably the biggest part of it when they went through that 3-17 stretch or whatever. But as you progress forward, you move towards the playoffs. This team might be the most dangerous 8 seed you've ever seen in your life. And when you get all the parts come together, if that's what we're projecting with KD, Kyrie, and Ben Simmons. But it's not only that. If you look at the pieces around their quote unquote big three, they got the shooters and Seth Curry and Patty Mills. They got their role players, like their junkyard dogs, Bruce Brown. I mean, Bruce Brown, I never watch a Nets game and don't come away impressed with what Bruce Brown does. He's just one of those guys. I don't even know what to call him. Is he a guard? Is he a forward? What is he? But he's always in the middle of the action, and he's always putting up these floaters. Like
he's a baller.
But he's always at the free throw line shooting floaters. And he looks like a 7-footer doing a push shot, but he's like 6'6". But he's a big part of this team. And the kid Claxton. The thing about Claxton is we talk about Jared Allen from time to time, how we thought that was a mistake moving him. Mm-hmm. It hurts a little less when you see how he plays. He's not Jared Allen, but he does some things like Jared Allen. He's active defensively with block shots, and he's a skywalker. He's going to play above the rim. Two of the things that Jared Allen does. And then you look at the vets that they have. When you talk about Dragic, Blake Griffin, Aldridge, we know some of these guys, they in and out, obviously. But I look at the Nets, and on paper, they are really well constructed. I really mean that. And then you look at what they've done, and it's just like, come on, they got to put this together. because Drake, I really think this is a roster that is built to win right now. And it's just frustrating that we just can't see it all come together for one reason or another. And obviously there's more than one reason or another. There's just so many reasons that we just can't see it right now. But if you get all these guys together, there is no doubt. I really mean that. I don't think we've ever seen a more dangerous 8 seed come playoff time.
I agree with you. I agree wholeheartedly. First of all, let me get this sorry ass Utah Jazz out the way. Here's the thing, right? Listen, like, man, Utah has been fraudulent for even when they was a 1 seed. Think about this. We said this. We were like, I don't know, man. Yeah, they a 1 seed. They had a good regular season, but I don't know. Utah just don't give me that championship feel. And here we are years later saying, Utah just don't give me that championship feel. I don't think it's Quinn Snyder. I think he's an awesome coach. Matter of fact, they saying if Quinn Snyder time is up in Utah, Frank Vogel time going to be up in LA because he might be the next coach of the Lakers. I'm just saying what I'm hearing out here in these streets. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking on it.
Is it? Do you think? I don't know. I don't think. Can we get anything else out of the Jazz, or have they peaked? I think that might be where I'm at. I don't know how can they get better. You know? Because
I just don't think so. You would need Rudy Gobert to just, turn into like his offensive output would have to turn into either Jokic or Embiid, and that ain't happening. Then you need, listen, Donovan Mitchell has the capability of going out there and drop consistently like 40 points, but it's like that's unreasonable to ask of somebody. Like for him to let's say you want him to drop 40 points every 2 games. Like, it's kind of unreasonable. That's a lot to ask for the guy. Then the other thing about Mitchell and Gobert is, first of all, and we know Gobert is really a non-factor offensively. So how much better do they make their teammates? You know, like Mitchell last night, just 3 assists. That to me, that's somewhat problematic. And I don't see him as a great playmaker. And then Gobert is so limited offensively. And if he's going to play like that, and by the way, the elite big men, I think, do give him problems. Normally, Jokic really takes it to him. And I just he was just a disgrace to me last night. And you look at who he's playing. I like Claxton, but you letting Claxton just walk all over. I never noticed him in the game until it's garbage time, and the Jazz are all of a sudden think they doing something, and Gobert gets 2 dunks late in the game. It's you made it into double figures. What a guy. So my question for you for Utah, if Utah was a contender, if they were to be a contender, you take Donovan Mitchell out, what do you got?
If you take Donovan Mitchell out, you don't have much of anything.
And that's
the one saving grace is I do think Bogdanovic makes a big difference for them.
Yeah, but he's the 3-point shooter. He's don't get me wrong, he is a good player, but he's not hey, let me take this game over and win it for the team. Let me put it on my shoulders. That's not what he do. And his best asset is being out there being somewhat of a standstill shooter. Letting it rip from the 3-point line.
Right. And I'm talking I think he makes a difference, but in the end, it's Mitchell and Gobert. Those are your 2 best players. And Gobert is not leading you anywhere. It has to be Mitchell, and I don't see him as that level of player.
Listen, the most offense I seen out of Rudy Gobert was when he was rubbing the mics before the pandemic got full blown. That was the most offense I ever seen. Let me tell you, he had his hands all out, and he was all offensive. He made a whole bunch of buckets that night. Listen, I just get tired. People, man, mainstream media, they just hype up Rudy Gobert. So defensive juggernaut. Who that? Name a guard he can stop. He could stop Nick Claxton. You think when the playoffs start, he's trying to see DeAndre Ayton? Karl Anthony Towns? Jared Jackson Jr.? Nikola Jokic? I'm just saying. Listen, if Houston was to make the playoffs, I don't even think he want to see Christian Wood. Let's know him like these other names out here. Y'all better stop playing with me with Rudy Gobert. All right, so let's get to a team that I actually think is a contender. So Brooklyn, right? This is what I want to say about Brooklyn. I think it should be some flowers given to Kevin Durant since he's been back. Since Kevin Durant has been back, he has, they done lost a few games, but he's been like the steady calmness of this team. And this is why I like what I see out of Brooklyn. I think this Brooklyn team now is better than they were last year. Even with all the Kyrie playing halfway, Ben Simmons yet to play. I like what I see from KD as a leader. Since he's been back, I think he's been a leader. Like, this man that managed to stay calm through the Kyrie saga, then stay calm through the trade saga. And now he's kind of just like, listen, these dudes can play. I'm KD. We're going to go out here and ball. Listen, whoever got Kyrie's spot, just know when Kyrie able to play, you going to the bench or whatever the case might be. But as of right now, you started, come on, let's do this. And to what you said, when do Donovan Mitchell make other players better? When do Rudy Gobert make other players better? I don't know, but I know who was doing it last night. KD was out here making everybody feel good. You had the Bruce Browns in the world just out here having a good old time. Nick Claxton just doing it, just gliding through the alley, as you say. Listen, it was guys out there that if they played on the Orlando Magic or Sacramento Kings, we probably wouldn't be talking about them. Let's just keep it real. But they play for the Brooklyn Nets, and they play for one of the best players to ever lace it up. And last night, I had, not to compare KD to LeBron, but that's the feel I got out of KD. Like, he was controlling that game. You go look at that third quarter, right? The Nets had a halftime lead, but it wasn't, I don't think it was like nothing crazy. Utah still had, I can't remember exactly, but Utah still was in the game. That third quarter, this is how you see from Durant.
He was great. He was automatic.
He was can I get a golden corral on all one? He was out there cooking and he was giving them all they could eat, right? Then by the time he goes to the bench, the role players come in, Gordon Dragic, Bruce Brown, Nick Claxton, Patty Mills. Like, get it. I get it. Some of those guys are starters, but they role players in this compared to KD. But they come in and they keep cooking. They keep playing. And this is what I'm thinking in my head as I'm watching that. I'm like, yo, the Nets got Andre Drummond and Nick Claxton. So all they got to do is play the matchup game. If they playing a big body like Embiid or Jokic, you put Drummond. If you're playing a small team, you put Claxton. They got like what you said was very true. They have a complete team, and once everybody comes back, Steve Nash might go ahead and do the Canadian shuffle to an NBA title here. Because it seems like right now, this thing is in cruise control. Because if they can play like that without Kyrie, without Ben Simmons, without Joe Harris, we forgot Joe Harris was even on the team. Think about this. Joe Harris was their original shooter. That was the guy we was like, okay, they need shooting Joe Harris. Joe Harris been working the graveyard shift lately. We forgot about Joe Harris. Why? Because they got Seth Curry. They got Patty Mills. They got other guys that can shoot. So, honestly, Steve Nash in a good spot because he don't got to sit here and pick and choose who do what. When he get a full team, somebody got to sit on the bench. You're going to have, a 7-man rotation, 8-man rotation? Somebody going to have to catch that bench. So I think Steve Nash's problem, I think his job is about to get harder. Right now, his job pretty simple. Get KD the ball. So, but what I harped on the most about the game last night was this. KD took it over in the third quarter. He said, hey, fellas, can y'all keep the gas in the fourth quarter while I get a rest? We got you, KD. And that's exactly what his teammates did. They came out in the fourth quarter. Like you said, the only time this game was close in the fourth quarter was that 3 minutes and about 15 seconds where Brooklyn just took a nap. I don't know what they was doing. I don't know if it was a Gatorade break and we didn't go to commercial or what, but these dudes just stopped playing for like 3 minutes and some change. And then I guess KD was like, yo, what are we doing? We're about to lose this game. Give me the ball. Give me the ball. And then after that, he pretty much closed the show. So listen, man, as far as I think last night, Brooklyn made me like I'm not a Brooklyn fan, but I like what I saw last night. I'm a component of that product last night, and I think, man, listen, like you said, 8 seed, 7 seed, whichever one they are, whether it's Miami, Philly, I forgot what other Milwaukee, whatever other teams that's in that mix at the top, it's gonna be a problem. It's gonna be a problem because no matter which one of them 3 teams they play, somebody's gonna have to deal with Kevin Durant. And Milwaukee already know what it is to deal with Kevin Durant in the playoffs. They seen it last year. They know what it is. Pretty sure Miami know what it is. Philly darn sure know what it is because they came in their building and put their foot in their, So I like what I've seen. And like I said, I'm going out on a limb and say this Brooklyn team is better than what they had last year. Yeah, even with James Harden, even with those guys, because I feel like now we have a more clearer path with Brooklyn. This is clearly Kevin Durant's team. I don't think it's no argument. No, it might be Kyrie's. Nope. This is Durant's team, right? And then it allows Kyrie to be what Kyrie was in Cleveland. We haven't seen Kyrie be this consistent since Cleveland. Why? LeBron James took all the heat. Kyrie just played ball. When Kyrie started getting in the media and trying to do what LeBron James do and what Kevin Durant do, that's when we see him kind of fall apart and be all weird. Now, yeah, he still got the COVID thing hanging over. But now, when it comes to just playing basketball, I think Kyrie is in his natural spot as the number 2 guy that's a very talented number 2, I might add. And that's when he plays the best. That's when you get a 50-point game and a 60-point game and all that. When he can just focus on doing that and not having to be the man like he was when he was with Boston and like he was in his first year with Brooklyn. So, yeah, man, I'm excited about this next team, man. I really am.